All right, as I mentioned, I have a special guest on the show today, April Hall with SRC Summit. So, April, thank you for joining the show.
Thank you so much, Dylan. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
I'm excited too because our big mission is just connecting owners with the best resources, the best people possible. And you have done that so incredibly well. And you've launched SRC, and you guys have these amazing annual events that we're going to get into some of the meat of what you share at those events and what people can experience. But before we do all that, I kind of want to give you a chance to just share your background and, who is April Hall? How did you get into this industry and all that good stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, it started a very long time ago. So I have a construction background. My family, they do custom built homes. So I grew up with that. And so I was on the job sites a lot with my dad. My mom ran a lot of stuff in the company, like all the book work, made everything happen. And, for fun, I'd read blueprints with my dad, so I just grew up in the industry. And so it was a natural transition or, progression to get into the roofing industry when I was in college. And so I had met a business partner then, and we opened up our first roofing and construction company in college. And, we did a lot of residential. We had a hailstorm, and then also did commercial right away. And so I've always loved the industry. It's been great. I had to take a little break from it, got back into home building for a few years, and then just transitioned back into roofing. So it's been quite a while. And after a while, just working in different markets and seeing the industry from, different states, we saw that there was no standardized training for the industry. So back in 2011, we created the industry's first insurance restoration sales training. So we launched that here in Dallas. And, contractors, I figured, hey, it's going to be the target market. It's going to be Dallas, right? Because there's a lot of roofing contractors here. Well, it was like 4 months later, contractors were flying in from all over the United States. So just really started to scale the company and listen to the needs and other things of what needs to happen in the industry. So created the overhead and profit seminar. And from there, I just saw a bigger need to create a conference. And so back in 2013, the first SRC was created. We used to call it the IRC. I've rebranded it since then. And so, it brings in, contractors from all over, but we have several different speakers and vendors. So that's really the quick background.
That's great. And I just love the idea of SRC. Obviously, we are going to be vendors at SRC. We see a ton of value in that. So Limitless will be there, and a lot of other really key people in the industry are going to be there too. And I just love what you've done to bring people together, because something special happens when you get to just sit across the table from somebody who has years or even decades of experience, and you can pick their brain and say, hey, even if somebody meets you and they can say, gosh, April, I know you've had experience in commercial roofing and residential. I've dabbled in commercial a little bit, but want to get into it. To get your feedback as somebody who's been there is priceless. And you're just amplifying that with SRC. So let's talk about, you going from growing up in the industry, launching training, and now this event. What is it like? I mean, what makes SRC different than other events out there?
Yeah, well, great question. Thanks for asking. SRC, I'm really big on delivering value. And so I always do pull contractors after the events. And each time I do anything, I always want to make it better the next time. And so the top two things that I get for feedback is, one, contractors always say, wow, I had no idea I was going to learn that much. So I'm big about delivering value, putting excellent speakers, excellent content, to where, attendees can take that back and they can implement it right away. I'm not big on, there's a lot of conferences you go to, it's a pitch fest, right? You're going to go up there and they're going to give you maybe some great bullet points, but hey, buy my other system for, whatever it is, thousands of dollars. We don't do that at SRC. We give you so much value you can take back, use right away. The second top thing that I get back for feedback from contractors is the networking. So just as you mentioned a moment ago about being able to connect with other contractors and, just have that conversation and make that relationship and learn from one another. So, the contractors come together, they learn from one another, and, they get so much knowledge in just those relationships. It's priceless. And so I love doing that. I love bringing the industry together for that. And yeah, it's very different. The majority of attendees that go to the SRC Summit are business owners, and they come from all over the United States. So the majority of attendees you'll see are going to be either owners and or general managers.
It's so good. And it's your passion because, I've spoken a few times now, and something I've heard you say repeatedly is bringing industry experts together.
Yes.
And I think that's critical because you truly are limited by the kind of people that you collaborate, network with. I mean, birds of a feather flock together.
I
And
agree.
if you want to run around, I mean, just like growing up, you run around with the wrong crowd, you're going to get into the wrong stuff. And you notice some of these other kids are doing other things and they're
Yeah.
excelling at sports, they're making good grades. It really does determine kind
Mhm.
of the boundaries on your own success. And it's the same way in business.
Yes.
I remember when I wasn't very entrepreneurial and I met a couple of guys that were super
Mhm.
entrepreneurial, and the way they talked about money, the way they talked about
Yes.
business, the way they talked about solving problems was so different. And then you
Mhm.
start running in that entrepreneurial world and you start to rub shoulders with other entrepreneurs who are making millions of dollars or even some billions of dollars. It's just a different crowd.
It is. So
And so
I can
let
say your network is your net worth, right? Yes.
Yep, right. Exactly. So let's talk about that. When you say bringing industry experts together, and I love that it's not a big pitch fest, because that's, we have a Facebook group, the Limitless Roofing CEO group, and a lot of people don't read the group rules, but it's actually one of the rules.
Yeah.
There's no spam and there's no advertising allowed, because
Mhm.
almost every other Facebook group I'm a part of,
They do
the
that.
good
Yep.
stuff just gets buried in advertising, and I have to
Yeah.
delete comments every day. And I'm like, hey, really like your the value you can bring
Mhm.
to this group, but please read the group rules again. They're there for a
Yep.
reason. We want value, we want excellence. And
Exactly.
so what kind of industry experts can people expect to encounter at SRC?
Yeah, well, I mean, gosh, go to srcsummit.com. I believe there's 40 plus speakers. There's a couple more that still need to be added, but there are several industry experts, meaning Roofing Contractor Magazine puts out the top 100 roofing contractors of the year each year. And so a lot of them are on that top 100 list. And so these are real experts in the industry. And what I like about them is that they've had such a high level of success. And what they're doing is, they want to give back. And it's so cool to bring them together, no matter if they're on the commercial panel, the industry expert panel, if they're speaking individually, they're up there and they're giving their time tested knowledge and the things that have helped them be successful, but also things of what happened, of what not to do is equally as important. So those are the type of contractors that we have there. Definitely go to the site and take a look at it. There's so many. One of my ones that I started, oh gosh, it's probably a year and a half ago. And like I mentioned before, I like to do things based on the industry needs. So I talk with contractors all the time. They tell me their pain points, the things that they want to gain more knowledge on. So about a year and a half ago or so, I created the commercial panel, just because contractors are asking, hey, I want to get into commercial, or, how do I break into it? Once I'm in there, how do I keep, procuring more commercial jobs, et cetera. So this year it's a $350 million commercial panel, and that's what's been sold within the last year. So these are top experts that are going to answer all those questions.
Wow. See, I just love that. I mean, it's not about, and consultants are great, programs are great, but it's totally different when you get to hear from someone who has a proven track record, who's already done
Yes.
it, who's learned through the school of hard knocks and develop a successful method that they're willing to share. And that's worth 10 times more than the cost of any conference. So I just love that. Well, one of the things you discussed is mindset. When we were talking about this, doing this podcast interview, and I've heard mindset mentioned by a lot of influential people in this space. And I've heard mindset mentioned over the years too. And I'm a big believer in attitude, and leadership books always mention attitude at some point. But what do you mean by mindset? That can mean a lot of different things. So what does it mean to get your mindset right to be an effective business owner?
Well, I think Henry Ford said it right. He says, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Right. And so your perception really is your reality. It shapes and it influences our decisions, the people that we meet, the experiences that we have. You can look at, I'm sure everybody's heard, hey, this is a glass half full or half empty, right? It's how we look at the world. I was reading, gosh, what was it? It was some statistic recently with the last couple months or something. It was very, very interesting. It said something like we produce, oh gosh, what was it? Like 50,000 thoughts a day, and 70 to 80% of them are negative. And so, I mean, that's thousands, 40,000 bath thoughts we produce per day. So we really have to, take a step back and control what we're thinking about, have a positive outlook on life, have a great, forward thinking, right? I mean, if we are in business for ourselves and we're having negative thoughts of, oh, I think it's not going to work, or, what you're thinking about what can go wrong, guess what's going to happen? It's going to go wrong. So you have to have a good mindset and, be positive, be around people, like-minded individuals. One of the opening keynotes for SRC, did you take a look at that yet, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm so excited to announce that Keith Craft, he is amazing. He's a leader, he's a thought leader, he's a pastor, he's a speaker, he's an author. He has spoken in front of so many high-end individuals. And I mean, I go to his church. I'm part of his mastermind group. His mastermind group is amazing. He does them all over the United States. He was a business owner before he was ever a pastor. So the things that he teaches are business skills and right mindset. So he's always talking about when you elevate your thinking, you elevate your life. And so his opening keynote is on mindset. And he's going to put that into business, and it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited to have him there. But yeah, I think mindset, you have to have the right mindset to be successful in business.
That is so good. And I agree with that 100%. And I think that there's some people listening to this, they may be thinking, you know what, that sounds great. You can be positive, but things still go wrong. And how's that going to affect my, basically what good is it going to do me to focus on mindset when, listen, I got to deal with reality. And sometimes reality blows up on you. How would you respond to that?
Well, you just got to change your thinking, right? Look at the whole COVID thing. What I do for a living is I bring people together. So, I was shut down for several months. I had no control over that. But you know what? In business, you have to pivot, right? You have to figure out the very next step and keep moving forward no matter what happens, right? And so, I mean, I'm doing that now. The last couple events have been great. I've done one, I had to wait a few months, but did one in July, did one in October. I wanted people to feel safe. And so I instituted a bracelet system, meaning when you check in, you're going to pick a bracelet in order to show your level of comfort of being around people, right? So if you pick green, it means, hey, I'm good to be here. Shake your hand, maybe give you a hug, right? Yellow's a little bit more conservative, fist bump, elbow bump. And red, social distance. And that has been amazing. It's really helped people know where they stand. And so I'm implementing that at SRC. I do have some companies now, big corporations, they're really on lockdown. Like some of my biggest sponsors, I have a couple of them, they are just not allowed to be in person. So I am, pivoting again once more. So they're having a booth and they're going to be able to be there digitally, like virtually. So they can have all their marketing, and we're going to have a screen set up. So they'll have different reps that are going to be there virtually, and anybody who visits their booth to be able to talk to. So it's always about having a positive mindset and moving forward and figuring it out as you go along.
Yeah. So if I hear you, it's not about like changing reality. Reality is what it is. It's just the way you think about it and the way you respond to it. And you're clearly a very solution-minded person.
Yes.
And I think about, I think about the Navy SEALs. I love learning about the Navy SEALs. It's always inspirational when you get somebody who writes a book or does a speech and they say, look, it was hard for me, but I broke through and here's how. And if you study the Navy SEALs a lot, I think I just finished my 5th book on the SEALs last month called Transformed by Remy Adeleke. Oh. They actually teach mental toughness in the SEALs.
You have to.
Because they realized you could get some farm boy from Kentucky to join Buds, and he just crushes it, and he didn't grow up in a place where he could swim a lot. And then you get some guy from the beaches of Florida that looks like he was, a Greek god embodied, and he fails. Why is it? It has nothing to do with the physical ability at that point. And so they teach 4 major things, and that is goal setting, positive self-talk, because of what you said. Most of our self-talk is negative. Goal setting, positive self-talk, deep breathing, and visualization, just to kind of think through things before they happen, which is what people do when they give speeches or whatever it might be. But I think it's amazing because they realized when they started teaching mental toughness, which is just mindset, they dramatically increased their pass rate at Buds. It's still small, but they dramatically increased that tiny little number of people that pass to a bigger, but yet still small number. And that's the key. And when you hear these guys talk, a lot of them say it has nothing to do with your physical ability. Like it has nothing to do with your ability to tread water for 5 minutes straight with gear on your back. It's all about how you think about that.
Yeah, it
And
is.
how would you say that shaped your journey in like what's one thing you practice as far as mindset, mental toughness, solid mindset practice that you've had to do when you got the news and COVID hit and you couldn't do this event the way you thought you would? What's something that you had to focus on to enable you to break through that barrier?
It's in business, no matter what type of business you run, you're involved in, you're going to have things that you have to figure out, right? So the mental toughness, you have to have a strong backbone, especially in this industry. The seminar industry is very tough. A lot of people see, they see the end result, but they don't see all the hard work and things that have to go on in order to make it happen. And so with that, it's tough. I mean, I just know, as far as I've been doing this for a long time, I know the process of it. So I just got to trust the process. And so if somebody's not able to sponsor because of COVID, which is completely out of my control, guess what? There's so many other people that can step in and do that. So you just work a little bit harder and you make it happen.
So what's some advice you would have for somebody listening to this right now? And they would say, look, April, I'm inspired by your story. You've worked through some challenging time with COVID, like a lot of people have, but you're successful. You've got SRC going. You're this, you're an industry influencer. And I feel like I can't generate the kind of mindset you have. What's one piece of advice you would have for somebody thinking that right now?
You just got to surround yourself with good people. If you feel alone, which has happened a lot with COVID, and we've been, away from people, it's been really tough on a lot of people. So you got to reach out, take the extra step out to somebody who, ask advice. A lot of times in this industry, let me step back. Basically, a lot of people are available. So many times, somebody's like, gosh, I really want to talk to that person. You know what? Find them on social media, or reach out, ask them a question. The best thing and best way you can learn in life is ask questions. Reach out to people that you want to know more about. Read a good book. I mean, it's such a weird year, right? It's so different, but surround yourself with good people if you can be around them. If not, try to reach out like we are on Zoom. Read good books, go to church, do whatever you can to change your mindset, just to be around positive influences. If somebody's negative and they're bringing you down, sometimes you just have to sever those relationships.
I think that's so good, because a lot of people, it's not really just the mindset that's a challenge. The biggest enemy going against them is isolation, and people don't ask for help. And one of the things that you mentioned that you wanted to discuss in mindset is a willingness to learn. And that takes some humility. That takes saying, hey, I don't have all the answers. And I'm also struggling, let's say, with whether it's the mindset or my business is not where I wish it would be. So let's unpack that a little bit. Why do you think willingness to learn is one of the keys to the right mindset?
Well, when you put it towards this industry, I mean, over the years, I've seen this industry change dramatically. I mean, we brought in so many different types of technology, and really the contractors and the ones who haven't adapted to that, they've fallen behind. So they really have to stay up on top of what's happening in the industry and go to events like this, just so they can learn, from one another. I have contractors that have been in business anywhere from, 3 years to 15 plus 20 years. A lot of the times my best, testimonials come from the ones that have been in the business the longest, because sometimes they've been stuck and they've been doing the same thing for a long time. And then they change. They sometimes go, hey, you bring up a new concept or whatever, like, hey, I used to do that and I forgot about it, so I'm going to implement it again. Or, hey, that's a new idea. I haven't even done that before. And so they implement it. Even with like the law in Texas has changed over the last year. So, it doesn't matter how long anybody's been in the industry, you're going to learn something by attending SRC, because we're going to stay on top of all of that. And you can always learn something from other contractors. So in life, no matter what business you're in, you always have to be learning.
You really do, and you find people that even if they are, successful in the eyes of most other people, most really successful people are constantly learning. They're reading books. They're going to lunch with other business owners. They're asking for advice. That's a great sign of somebody that's humble and doesn't believe they know it all. But you also come across people who they're stuck and they've got a lot of reasons for why they're stuck, and they're not really interested in hearing anything else. And I think it's critical to be a learner. You never really arrive at success. Success is a process, and failure is a
Yes.
process too. So you've got to be a learner, and I just that whole idea of sharpening the saw. The mind needs to constantly be sharpened. And there's that Bible verse that says, as iron sharpens iron, one person sharpens another.
Yes.
And obviously that's what people get by going to SRC, but that needs to be a daily practice.
It does. Yeah, you just can't go once and then not, just not implement anything. You got to keep staying up with that and, read, like you mentioned, reading books. And most of the millionaires in the United States are reading between, I think it's like 40 to 60 books per year. And a lot of times we think, oh gosh, when you get to that type of success, you don't need to learn anymore. Well, that's so far from the truth. I hear that a lot. I mean, you have to constantly keep learning and innovating and growing. And so, yes, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, because things are constantly changing. And
Yes.
thank God for Audible. Makes it a lot easier now.
It does.
So with that said, having the right mindset, you can attend these great events. Let's talk about attending SRC, because we're going to be there. It's easy for us. It's a no-brainer for us just because we know it's a great event, and also it's in our neighborhood. We're in Dallas. The event's going to be in Frisco. So let's talk about how can people attend? What's the call to action here? What are
Yeah.
the steps?
Yeah, I mean, srcsummit.com, it has everything on there. You'll see all the speakers. There's an agenda. It has the tickets on the page. We do VIP or general admission, and it shows exactly what it is between the tickets. We do group rates on the general admission tickets. Just increase the cart, and group rates start at 3 people or more, and then it populates those group rates. And so, yeah, it's happening January 23rd through 25th. And so as we get closer to the event, the ticket price goes up. So, definitely people need to register a little bit earlier if they're looking at saving some money. If they're traveling Dallas, because it's such a great hub, you can get here from anywhere, and you can usually get pretty decent flights and rates for that. Well, as far as, if they're traveling, I've got amazing hotel rates for SRC. Embassy Suites is connected, and that's the one that's on site at the convention center. That's only $157 per night. But I have, several other hotels on the venue section. They go down as low as $79 per night. So there's something for everybody. There's a ton of different space around here. Got great group rates, and there's a lot of stuff that you can do around here that's fun too. So it's a neat area.
Great. And for those of you listening to this, we will put the link to the event in the notes to the podcast. So you can just look at the podcast on your smartphone and see a link to the website right there in your notes. We're going to be there. I think it's a no-brainer. There's a lot of conferences, and we, as far as Limitless goes, we picked just a few that we're going to attend in 2021, and this is one of them. So I think it's key that you're making it easy for people to attend. You're going to have the wristband situation to put everybody at ease, and people are going to get equipping. That's what they're going to get. They're going to get equipping, connecting, networking from industry leaders, people who have a proven track record. And I think everybody should attend. So we will be there. We hope to see you all there. And April, I'll look forward to meeting you in person.
Yes.
And so thank you for being on the show and letting us all be a part of this.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you at SRC.